Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is bigger than us, to the big mystery, the great spirit, all of the beautiful revealings and not knowings and synchronicities and moments of connection and remembering, and just so profound. I love the twisting, turning journey that life can be. I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird, and I love to have these conversations. I love to explore it myself, within myself, do deep dives. I love lingering in bed in the morning and just knowing and just seeing what shows up inside my inner landscape. And I really love being immersed in spirit in this conversation of being human and being divine at the same time. And I love to have guests on my show. I love to guide you in your journey, you listeners and people are coming along with us on this ride. I would love to hear what you think. Sometimes people leave comments and it's just so great when people do that, because it's like, wow, you got something from this. It touched you in some way. And I really love to hear that kind of thing. So I love hearing from you. And so if you want to have a conversation, you want to see if there's a fit here, come to my website, carriehummingbird.com, Kerri, hummingbird.com, and there's a little box. You can book a little 15-minute chat, or if you really want to go into it, you could book a longer one. So today's guest is Helen Reynolds. Welcome, Helen.
Thank you, Carrie.
Helen is coming to us from down under, from Australia. And
So long since I've heard that term.
I know, right? Because I don't know, it just seemed right. So Helen is really she has got beautiful reflections. We've already had conversations because you're a messenger of spirit, and sharing that journey of connection to that which is bigger than us. She's really in the bush, so she says she feels the strongest when I'm in the bush, and loves that inner relationship, the inner relationship to life, freeing of mental, material, meaningless chatter that otherwise robs us of true living. Meaningless chatter. And then having the inner relationship goes back to all of our other relationships. So as soon as we have that, we don't have to feel isolated anymore or lonely, because we've got joy and harmony already within us. And so I love that Helen guides people in this discovery process. So we do a similar thing from different places, from different perspectives. And so I am just so excited for you to share with us a little bit more about you and a little bit more about your journey to discovery of this inner presence.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. Something's going on because I'm all teary. So my journey to discovery. Well, though when I was really young, family came. We had a cattle station, I guess, is what your listeners might refer to. We call them a property in Australia, but it's not much, there's no difference. And I would hop on my horse or my pony, I was young, and the only rule I had was to be home before dark. And so I would take a dog and me and my horse, and I would just disappear into the paddock. And I can remember just being in the bush, feeling the space, and something resonated in me. I mean, I was young, I didn't have words for this, but it never went away, I guess. And being, young and trying to work out what all that meant in Australia, it's probably the same in the States. There's a huge expectation that family farms or properties, stations, I guess, ranches, maybe, is that the word that you guys would
Ranch,
use?
yeah, ranch, family farm, yeah.
Would be kept in the family generation after generation. And in our family, I could tell from a young age that just was not going to happen. And so that sent me sort of into this big questioning, and we had a lot of bad years of terrible drought, no rainfall, and the consequences of that were, a lot of stress and a lot of hardship. And so right from this really young age, I'm just trying to paint this picture of this incredible searching and no answers, of course, because
Yeah.
in normal, I was raised no different to anyone else in terms of spiritual guidance. And so it took many years of searching to kind of come into this place of open-heartedness to life, and that feeling of connection and harmony and joy. And it's a beautiful place to live in.
So what happened with the farm? What happened with the ranch?
It was sold under financial pressure. Yeah, my parents had different, I was still a school age kid then. They had different farms and different businesses over the years. So I guess to a sense that made me quite adaptable and broke me free of a lot of the traditions that are held around growing up in the bush. And that's probably only just realized that right then.
Don't
My
you love
dad,
that?
yeah, I know, right? My father's actually really traditional, and I only realised that, I don't know, probably 15 years ago now, but sort of I feel like that's quite recently, like he bluffed me. I fell for it all those years.
Oh, you fell for
Um,
the illusion.
anyway, as a young kid, I can just always remember him saying to us, my brother and I, "You've just got to think about it. It's not that difficult, And so he was probably saying it when he was cranky with us, like we'd done something wrong. And if we'd thought about it first, maybe we wouldn't have let the pump run dry of fuel or something, But that instilled in me an incredible willingness to search and think and ask questions. And that was a real gift in a way. But unfortunately for Dad, later in life, I was like, so these traditions are just things people do over and over again for no reason at all. I think I'll ditch those. And that was when I realized he was so traditional. He wanted to walk me down the aisle in a white gown, and I didn't want that. And he wanted me to leave uni, get married and have kids, and I didn't want that. And so I was like, oh dear, poor fellow, taught us to think, and now he doesn't like what I think.
That is the dichotomy and the paradox, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
you teach your kids one thing and then you really regret it later when they actually do it, you know? So that picture, that image of you just wandering free on a horse with your dog it's like that's so powerful.
The
Free as
space.
a child, right? Like not
Yeah.
so many kids now, like you can't even people are afraid to let their kids even go down the sidewalk just because somebody comes and
Mm,
scoops them up and takes them off some child trafficking thing, people are so afraid.
mm, mm.
And
Yeah, no,
here's you free.
I was really blessed in that way. Yep. The only rule, Mum taught us how to find our way home if we got lost. And yeah, the only rule was you had to be home before dark.
And so
It was
just
fantastic.
wandering all day, all that spaciousness.
Mm, mm. So whenever I go I live in town now, in a normal town. I have a small backyard. Well, it's not that small, but it's not huge either. But I'm always drawn. We live quite close to a school that has really fantastic ovals, and I'm always drawn onto the ovals because that's my sense of space, relative to where I live now. So I go there every day. Mm.
So how did you stumble into doing this kind of work that you're doing now, guiding people?
I'm not 100% sure. um, I was searching for answers for myself for such a long time. At one point, I honestly can't remember now how it happened, but I developed this set of questions that really has the ability to open people's hearts in a way that doesn't bring up resistance or pain or discouragement it's just I don't know where they came from. They must have been gifted to me somehow. And then it took me another long time to work out how to finish what that opens. And then, yeah, so it's come into this really beautiful place of being able to help people with their awakening in a really quick and supported, because Source is supporting, way, but without the resistance and without the needing to go back and work out why I'm the way I am and what happened to me when I was a kid and all that stuff that I think is really just mind distraction. Couldn't think of a better word. So yeah, it just kind of unfolded over lots of years, and I had to ask too, you know, you have to pursue it. If it's opening up, you've got to say, yes, I'm committed. Yeah, there's been multiple times when I thought I had the follow through to those questions, you know. Once you open the gate, you've got to support people. But then I had to check in, you know, is this follow through? Does it feel free? Does it feel free flowing? Does it feel heart centered? Does it feel supportive? Or is there some kind of element of teacher? Like, I can't think of a better word. Is there some kind of, you know, teacher element in this, which is sort of more of a guru element in this? And if there was a guru element, then I had to go back to the beginning, you know, because we're all connected. We just need reminding. I needed reminding, and now that I've been reminded, I can help remind others. Does that make sense? Am I making any sense?
Yeah, well, what I get from what you're saying is that you're sensitive to your ego getting a hold of your soul's mission. Like, you know, like your ego going, oh, this is fun. Now I'm important because like I know all this stuff. And then I can like show everybody else how I know all this stuff. And then they can come and follow me and I can teach them and I can pat them on the head like, good job. Because, you know, and that's not what it is. It's not about that. It's like we're all the same. We're different facets of the same beingness. And it's learning it in its own pace, and each one of us, even if you just think of it as terms of like different souls that are all part of the same unity, each soul is learning. It's choosing its own ride. Like it just knows what it wants, so it'll wake up when it's ready. But in the meantime, we can have fun, you know, helping each other. You know,
Yes, and that beautiful awakening moment, they're so precious. They're so precious, you know. They can come with tears or shivers or you know, you can get a real physiological response to it, and the feeling well, I get it in the heart center sort of space, and just this overwhelming's not the right word, but a welling up of warmth and like that welcome feeling when you really want to welcome someone into your home, and you're quite excited that they're visiting you, and but you want to give them the warmest welcome possible. That's sort of how I feel when I can tell that I've opened the gates for someone or helped them open the gates. There's that guru factor sneaking back in.
Sneaking back in. I opened the gate. Woohoo!
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they claimed it for themselves. So, but you know, but they were inspired. You know, that's I think the gift we can provide is like inspiring people into a revelation about themselves that they already were going to make anyway, but like now when they're ready, like the seeds, maybe like 1,000 seeds got planted, and then they listen to your podcast.
Yeah.
And then it's, oh, wow, there it goes. And now they're like, oh, Helen is so amazing. She just said this and it touched me. Meanwhile, it's like there's at least like a dozen other seeds that got planted on that one realization, right? But it just didn't click until they heard you say it.
Yeah. And loads of other life experience and all their desires for what they want and who they want to be and what kind of parent they want to be or how they want to touch humanity. And we've all got something to share. We've all got something to share that will help make the world a better place.
It's work being humble.
Yep. And I mean, when we're open to it too, we get humbled all the time, you know. If suddenly someone's difficult to work with, and you think, oh, you know, first your mind goes, how dare they speak to me like that or whatever, and then you have to pull yourself up and think, actually, I've had this week. So I'm doing some volunteer work in a place, and in my mental opinion, that they don't say thank you often enough to their volunteers, and they don't foster the team environment in the volunteers anyway. So my mind goes off with these thoughts, and then I sit back and think, we're all one in being. Come back to the heart center, Helen. You know, you have to be self-disciplined in this practice. And then I noticed that when I really opened my heart, I was like, oh my gosh, that person is pretty much an exact version of me a few X number of years ago. I was like, wow. And then I really had to open my heart, because essentially I was looking at myself. Yeah. So that was very humbling, shall we use that word. But, you know, once I got my mind out of the way, you know, now I can really make, from that position, anyone who puts themselves into that open-hearted position can then make a really great contribution to the space around them. None of us ever know how that contribution is going to roll out. We don't know whether the person's going to suddenly turn around and say thank you, but they may not. You know, that's the surprise of Source, isn't it? We never know how it's going to roll out. We never know how it's going to end. But from that heartfelt position, we can do great things without really having to do much at all. Now I probably really am not making sense.
No, you are. I was thinking as you were talking, I was like, well, there's one job on earth that gets very little thanks, and that's being a mom, you know? So, you know, like being a mother is one of those things, being a parent, but being a mother is one of those things that just doesn't get a whole lot of thanks, you know? It's a tough job. You got to be mindful. You got to constantly open your heart, check in, and just go, okay, I'm not going to take offense at that, or I'm not going to react to that, or I'm just going to be open. I'm going to let my heart light shine. This one's learning, you know?
Mm.
You know, and then the rare moments that there's like a genuine thank you. It's like you just want to stay in that moment.
Yep. That makes all the others worth it.
Yeah, it's powerful. So one of the things I'm thinking about lately is the way that the divine feminine is coming back in. And that
Mm.
really has to do with that spaciousness that you were talking about.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I feel lately I've been feeling a real sense of urgency about this. And by lately, I sort of only mean the last 10 days. Just a real sense that there's momentum building, and more momentum is required, more open hearts are required, and that it's needed now. And that we can wake up quickly. You know, it doesn't need to be difficult, doesn't need to take years. No one needs to go through the years of ups and downs and lots of downs that I've been through, and many others. You know, it can happen quite quickly, and then together we like a Mexican wave in a way. You know, we build this momentum, and collectively we carry each other into a better spaciousness of living.
Yeah.
That's what I've been feeling.
Yeah, that spaciousness. I just keep coming back to that just because that was such a powerful image and experience that you shared with us. That
Well, I
freedom.
guess, yeah. And when we don't know it, we feel very isolated and separated. Actually, I just wrote in an email last night that the English language is sort of geared to, I hope this makes sense, but the sense of, you know, when we think we're individuals, and we don't know how connected we are, and we don't know how our physical existence connects to the oneness of all that is. We think that we're individuals, and that we're sort of isolated in our body. You know, I'm a body and you're a body and that person's a body, and we're all individuals on earth or something. And so the English language is kind of geared up to this idea that when we're individuals and separated, then we have freedom, because we're it's just us. But in actual fact, that form of living is more like bondage, because there's more frustration and more worry and more anxiety and more comparison and judgment and attachment to things needing to be a certain way before I can feel good, and judgment of others, and what are the other, greed and fear drives that way of living. And so it's that this sort of juxtaposition made me realize that although our language is set up in a way that makes us think that once we're separate and individual and stand alone, that we're free, it's actually the other way around. When we realize that we're part of a whole and that we're here for a purpose and we're all connected and we're all one, and we can tap into that state of unity, then we are free.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. That's beautiful. It's really the question, it begs the question, what are you wanting freedom from? Because when you're the ego, like if you're living separate, what do you think if you're separate in that mentality in your individual, what do you think you're free from? And then but it's like obligation, what? Like, what do you think you're free from when you're being separate? Demands on your time? I mean, other
I guess
people.
yeah, you think you can make your own decisions and that's all it matters for is you. But we're raised that way,
Yeah.
where it's not necessarily an adult decision. It's something that's fostered right from our childhood in our current Western society.
Which is a very forward motion society. It's it's conquer the whole world society, think culture and
but
thinking.
by force, not
By
power.
force.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a whole nother model. Like, I love that you brought that up because I can really feel how it's liberating to not have to be so separate and so, like, it takes a lot of energy actually to maintain the separateness.
Oh yeah, absolutely it does.
It takes a
And
ton of energy.
we're never more differentiated and individuated than we are when we're in relationship with Source. So our individual gifts and our individual expressions and our individual contributions can only truly be expressed when we're in relationship with that connection to Source or unity or oneness or God or the divine or spirit. Like you've said in other podcasts, it really doesn't matter which word you use if you're open-hearted and connected.
Because it's almost like I'm visualizing like this light, right? And when you realize that you're part of it, then all of a sudden you're not separate anymore. And so then the light shines through your gifts. Because it can, because you just allowed it. You just took off the false membrane.
Yep. And too, when we live in separation and we can feel that we've got gifts, we're not confident enough to express them because we're worried about what other people will think, or we're worried we won't do it well enough, or we compare our gift. Perhaps we're a musician. We compare our ability to play the piano against someone else's ability to play the piano, and then we think we're not good enough to play the piano, so we don't share our gift, and then we feel terrible because we don't share our gift. And this tension goes on in our body because we feel like we've got something to give, but we're not game to give it. And but it's because we're only operating on such a small amount of light, like using that example you just offered. We're always connected. Even when we're in separation, we still have some light within us, but we don't have enough light to give us the ability to fully express what we've got to give. And so once we take the shackles of separation off, or the bondage of separation, then like you said, that light shines through us fully, and we have the ability to say, this is my contribution. And if I give it in joy and allow that source energy or life force energy or divine energy to flow through me, my gift might not be perfect, but it'll bring joy to many.
To
And
whoever
that's
it's
what
meant to
matters.
bring joy to.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
instead
And
of like counting numbers and all that.
yep, yep.
That's a big ego game. I realized it. I mean, I know it, but it's a big trap. I catch myself in it often. You know,
In
I'll
terms of
scroll
counting.
social media or whatever, I'll scroll and I'll
Ah,
see, oh, someone, another thought leader, and they've got like, like 2,000 likes on something. And I'm like, wow, I've never had that, and I'll just start going into the inner dialogue and go like, wow, wow, that's not happening for me, Carrie, it's not yet. But, and then I'm like, then my mind goes, well, I wonder how I can make that happen. So now the
of
mind is going,
course.
what does, what do I need to do to make, oh, I need to spend marketing dollars? Like, how are they
That's
doing
right.
it? And my mind goes
What's
into
the
like,
next
how
strategy?
are they making it happen? And then I
Mm-hmm.
catch that because I'm like, that's not true. Like maybe they are using marketing dollars. I don't really know. But the conversation for me is irrelevant because I'm not in that game. That's not the game I'm playing. So then I'm like, oh, then I have to remind myself, that's right. Like my book's been doing great, right? It's like 60 weeks now. And by the time this goes out, it'll be a lot more. On the bestseller charts, I'm not buying the book. So, because I surrendered it. I said, that book belongs to spirit. So it came through me, I offered it, and then I just let it go. But I look at it every week and I go, wow, it's like, I'm like very excited, like a little child, because that's the magic. To me, I didn't do that. Carrie, didn't make that happen. Spirit is making that happen. And so that's like, it's more rewarding for me that spirit made it happen than that I connived or tried to manipulate that or make it happen.
Mm,
If I'd have gone about it that way and hired a publisher or whatever, bought a bunch of books every week and had some big strategy, I don't know, it wouldn't be as exciting for me. I want it to be magical. So for me, this is
mm,
magical because it's just happening. I'm
mm,
not like, I didn't put any advertising dollars on that.
mm,
It's
mm,
just, it's just happening because it's authentic.
mm. And that's how source is, or the divine is. And but I think you raise a good point. We have to, and like I said about the volunteer work I've been doing, we have to catch ourselves out. We have to be the watchman at the gate, because otherwise we do go looking for the next strategy, or what could I say to that person to get them to react this other way so that I can feel good. Like we have to be the watchman at the gate all the time to catch ourselves out, because we just fall back into those old patterns otherwise.
Yeah, we're at the beginning of a big change. I mean, I feel like, although, like, I feel like somebody used this phrase the other day and I really loved it. And I don't know that I'm going to express it as well, but it's almost like we're on the tip of the knife, like, and it's diving into the future. And we're just at the spearhead of it. We're just right at the tip.
Mm,
And what's the rest of it? All of our ancestors, like that have been working this puzzle for thousands of years, and we're at the spearhead and we're about
mm,
to pierce the next level of consciousness. And here we
mm,
are, like right there.
mm.
What a blessing.
Mm, what an exciting time to be part of
Woo!
it. Yeah, yeah, that's the momentum wave that I was trying to explain before. You
Yeah.
have to use an analogy, don't you? Because it's really difficult to explain. But yeah, we're building that momentum, and we do have all our ancestors behind us, but it takes us who are on earth now to keep our ancestors' work going. Oh, what's a better word?
To keep them, yeah, to keep building on it. It's like you can't just rest on your laurels
No, no,
or your
never.
ancestors' laurels.
Yeah, that's right.
And, actually, I would criticize. Okay, so one thought, I had two tracks of mind. One was saying, well, people have been resting on their ancestors' laurels and just enjoying themselves and being little partiers, and not really thinking ahead, just they sort of have been resting on their laurels. But then the other side of my brain goes, well, actually, that's been part of the whole gig, is because it's like the caterpillar analogy, right? You got to like fill up the caterpillar. Like caterpillars munch, 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 munch. They just like eat and 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 eat until they're ready to molt. And then they go into the cocoon. And then they
Mhm.
go and become butterflies, right? And so we're all about to become butterflies. So yeah, we had a bunch of caterpillars eating a bunch of stuff. And consume, consume, consume. And now we're going through an evolutionary process where we're not going to be, it's going to shift. So
Mm,
we won't need to consume so much on the outside because we'll have more on the inside.
yeah. The cocoon analogy could be good though, because we need some inner attention time, some time without that outer munch, munch, munch distraction that, when you were saying that analogy, the munches just reminded me of our consumer economy that we all partake in. And the next shiny object will make me feel good, and the next strategy for my business will make my book a bestseller, or my course I'll sell enough courses, I'll be a millionaire, or whatever. When we feel that dissatisfaction, not quite, when we feel that we still feel the yearning, we're always looking for the next strategy, or the next possession, or the next place to live, or the next trip to the beach, or whatever it is. And then when we kind of give that up and hop in the cocoon and do some self-reflection, all the satisfaction comes from that inner work, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And
because it's like that you were letting go of that chattering mind and getting quiet.
mm,
There's a lot going on inside, at least
mm.
inside of me. You know, I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but I just know that when I go inside of me, like I've been sleeping in, I like to sleep in. My alarm goes off and then I actually intentionally, it's like a meditative practice for me. I like to lie in bed and I like to just like go in an inner journey and an inner noticing of all the things. Like,
Mm,
okay, what's arising for me now? What's in the back of my mind? What thought is, what old pattern is creeping in? I just like to, like when I'm
mm.
really relaxed, I just like explore it. I could do that for like an hour. My alarm keep going off and I'm like, not yeti. I'm still exploring, like this is my exploration time. Like I learn a lot from that. It's a healing process for me.
Mm, Yeah, I do something similar at night and in the morning. At night, I'm usually I try to pack a lot into a day without being overwhelmed. But, at night I'm pretty tired, but I do always deliberately connect before I go to sleep, because I think our sleep time and our dreams are energy work. Um, I don't Personally, I don't feel a big need to analyze my dreams and seek deeper understandings from them. Some very occasionally, but not regularly. But I still respect that they're energy work and that there's stuff going on for me in a good way while I'm resting. And so, yeah, I always check in at night and wish myself well. Like, and then in the mornings I do the same. I wake up and I think, oh, the first thing I need to do is connect. I've been connected all the time while I've been sleeping, so I want to be connected while I'm awake. And then I just automatically start thinking about the things that need to be done that day. But then I frame them in a instead of going into that, years ago I would think, okay, I've got to do this and I'm worried about this and this other thing could happen and I have to remember to do that for that person and like it
So
would
much
be like
stress. Yeah.
it would be, open my eyes and within moments, instant
It starts
anxiety
like
and
the ticker starts rolling of all the things like in your
yeah,
brain,
yep,
just like, and it keeps going over and over and over and over and over again.
yep.
Ugh, I
Uh,
have that too. Less
and
now, but yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I still do think about what I need to get done this morning, this day, but once I think of it in an open-hearted context, then all that worry is, as it becomes joyful. That's the difference. It goes from anxiety and worry about how I'm going to get it all done, or what consequences that action has, and da 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 da, all that mind, blah 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 blah, and suddenly it becomes a joyful flow of all these things I'm going to do today. And then, so then I go through the day and I notice at the moment here it's spring, and the flowers, oh, they're so beautiful. And it's been so dry. I don't know how the trees have found this water to produce these magnificent flowers. But I find myself now driving down the streets and my eye will be, drawn over to that cherry blossom tree or the magnolia or the other thing I don't know the name of, but it's incredibly beautiful. And then you start walking down the street and you just think, oh, look at all these people, look at all these shops, look at all these things going on, and everyone's expressing themselves and everyone's just doing their thing, and oh my God, life's so amazing. And it sounds so corny. I realize I sound ridiculous, but it's so hard to explain that way of being. And then, silly little things happen. Like the other day I needed to find someone's surname. I could remember their first name, I couldn't remember their surname, and I needed to send them an email. So I'm thinking, okay, where can I find this person's email surname? I have to go here to open that other thing to, da, da, da. And then the next thing I know, I'm sent an email from my business partner that says the person's surname. And I was like, oh, I got the answer in a moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's right. And so then all these synchronicities just tumble into your to-do list, and everything just begins to flow. And oh my God, that's a fun way to live.
And that's when you're in the flow, when your heart's open. So, and you were talking about being really aware of when your heart's not open, when you're in your mind and you're in your chatter and your judgment. And so, and you said you go into your heart, but do you have a specific practice to bring yourself into your heart, or you just transition your attention? How do you do it?
Well, given I'm having to think about what I do to answer your question, I think we can say I don't have a specific practice. But in a way I do. I think what I'm thinking is it's different for every scenario, because you have to pull yourself back from differing degrees of having strayed. I use my mind. Actually, this is a little side note, but I'm not a huge fan of using the word ego, because it puts a bad spin on the fact we have a mind that can focus. And I actually think the focusing ability of our mind is critical. We cannot, in my opinion, we cannot be a functioning human with a heart alone and no mind at all. And we can't be a functioning, history has proven to us, we can't be a functioning human with a mind alone and no heart. We have to have both. And so I rarely use the word ego with anyone, because it puts this negative spin.
It does have a negative connotation, yeah, because of how we talk about it.
Yeah. And
yep. For sure.
So
personality is another way, but yeah, mind.
So I focus my mind and deliberately sort of mentally drop it down as if it's got eyes and it's looking into my heart space.
Oh.
Or sometimes it kind of like drops down my spine and joins my heart space. And then I pretend or use my imagination to imagine I'm looking at the world from my heart space. And I take a few deep breaths and I check in to feel my heartbeat. And I remind myself that I'm part of the whole, that I'm not isolated. I don't need to operate from fear. So I go through a bit of a sort of a just a mental reminding of who I really am, And I ask myself, sometimes I ask myself, do I want to operate? Do I want to act from who I really am, or do I want to act from some kind of arrogance or some kind of separation, some kind of judgment position? And, if I answer yes to that question, I know I've really strayed. I mean, sometimes we do. Sometimes we
Sometimes
we
we do,
we
we're like,
we get
yes, in this
swept right
moment,
away.
absolutely. I think it's okay. I think it's once in a while, it's all right to be in that space, like, yes, right now I'm being very human and I'm saying no to that thing, you know, and I'm okay with that, because we're all of it. We're divine and we're human and we're temporary and we're infinite. So
Mm,
we
yeah.
get that choice and sometimes you need to leverage it. You might learn something from it. I remember one time I had 2 glasses of wine. I don't drink anymore that much, and I had like big red wine glasses of wine, like overflowing glass, like not filled all the way to the top of the wine glass, but And this was this year sometime. I can't remember when it was. And what happened was the next day my energy was so much lower.
Mm.
However, I had a very humbling experience where somebody was psychic and I was like doing a virtual coffee with them and they picked up on my lower vibration and commented on it and actually like shunned me and like, were like, I can't talk to you right now. It was like I had such a moment of humility. Like I was like, wow, I wouldn't have known that was how much that hurt and stung to be superior, like spiritually superior, unless I had just experienced that. And I definitely at that time was on the verge of being a little spiritually superior. My ego, my personality, my mind, whatever, my human was getting a hold of that and feeling better then. And so I was like, oh, whoa, that really just that humbled me. So sometimes making those choices that seem out of line with, the checklist of how you think you're supposed to be spiritual, sometimes those things give you a better lesson,
Well, that's the
in
thing,
my
isn't it?
experience.
Well, no, I haven't had that exact same experience. Of course, none of us have, but the checklist point, that you're making is a really, really important point because, and it also leads me to, you've written about this, but I talk about it a lot too, that we expect spirit to come to us in the same way, like the hummingbird will always come to you. I think you wrote about and we talked about in before. Um, Spirit doesn't come to us in the same way all the time.
Right.
Um, the checklist that we put around ourselves is, like you said, a mental one and completely unnecessary. And um, we have to follow what feels good at the time. And in the example you just offered, I'm presuming that it wasn't a painful experience to drink the 2 glasses of red wine. Like there would have been some joy in that and maybe even a little bit of feeling of like naughtiness or something.
There
But,
was. That was enjoyable too.
yeah, see, but it was an enjoyable experience. And whereas the experience, if you'd adhered to your checklist, you would have said, no, I can't have the wine. And that would have been um, a, a self-righteous um, position to take. And self-righteousness isn't spiritual either. That's not
Right.
a joyful position to come from. So I think it's really important. We have to be in the flow, and when sometimes things take a direction that we don't expect, um, just to check in. Does this feel good? This isn't what I'd normally do, or this is something I haven't done in a long time. But if it feels good, I don't know what's going to. That's the other thing. We never know how anything is going to end. You know, you never knew when you drank those 2 glasses of red wine that you were going to have this incredible learning the next day within less than 24 hours, I'm presuming.
Yeah.
We never know how it's going to end. And so that's the thing about the spiritual journey. And that's the only thing I think that makes it scary is that we don't know. We have to get comfortable with not knowing.
And trusting. We have to trust ourselves in the moment.
Yep.
Because I think the reason why is because we implicitly know that every choice has a consequence or, not in a punitive way, but every choice has ripples and effects. So like
Mm,
every choice leads to other choices, leads to open doors. You know, every choice opens doors. So like what doors are you opening with that choice? But if we go into analysis paralysis, then that's not living
mm-hmm,
either. That's like,
mm-hmm,
that's being way too restrictive. So there is this like being in the flow for me is being able to sense like, okay, this is a choice point. Yes, I know that. Okay, I'm going to go with this because my heart is calling me, or I'm, you know, whatever my innate sense is, and I'm going to trust that feeling and move
mm,
forward and then see what happens on the other side.
mm, mm. And joy, source or the divine or spirit is joyful. It it's so we're always following the joy. Um, and so
I'm
that's what
thinking about you on the horse again.
yeah, yeah,
Because it's
that
the same
feeling of
thing, that same feeling,
it's the
right?
yeah, it's the same. Yeah, yeah,
Free, I mean, just wandering.
yeah.
Wandering is not being lost. You know,
No.
wandering is synchronicity. Wandering is going with that flow.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there are that's the feminine, I feel like. And then there are points where you got to put a little structure in there. You know, where you insert a little structure. Like you might have a few checklist items for the day that you got actually have to get done. And then the other part could be a flow. But even the checklist can happen in a flow. Like if you just set the intention, like
Absolutely.
this is going to happen today, and you just go, okay, I'm letting go mind. That's going to happen today. It eventually will all work its way in. You'll find yourself doing all of it.
That's right. And it doesn't feel like a burden. It doesn't feel hard to do. And one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and suddenly it's lunchtime and you think, wow, that was fun. But gee, I'm hungry.
Well, so you've been living this way, and that's why it's probably challenging to talk about it because you've been sort of living in the flow and going
Yeah.
and unfolding, right?
Mm, yeah. And words, words are parcel. Words are the way we communicate energy. I think, I can't remember if we talked about this in the last recording or not, but it's that we're trying to decipher parcels of energy. And sometimes I do find it quite difficult to find the word with the right frequency to convey the parcel of energy, if that makes sense. Artists get it. I'm not an artist, but I sort of imagine that an artist would receive this urge to paint or draw or make art, and they're converting that parcel of energy, that creative idea, into colors and shapes and whatever it is. But to me, that's a conversion of creative energy, as is a musician. And but anything too, it could be a builder, it could even be a more a doctor. They might be able to receive parcels of energy about how to heal someone's body. But yeah, so I do sometimes struggle to get the right word with the right frequency to say what that little parcel of energy is trying to say.
Yeah, I understand that. It feels to me like sampling, like I we've already established I like wine. So let's just go there. So, like wines have nuances. Different wines have different nuances, different flavors that
Mm,
arise. And so, like, you can smell it. You know, if you really smell carefully, you can smell like, oh, this has vanilla, or oh, this has blackberry, or you can smell that in the wine, and then you can taste it. When you taste it, there's
mm,
certain ways to like, like do the wine on your tongue so that it circulates, and then you really taste the flavors, and it's even more intense. And so for me, that's the same process with those energy parcels you were talking about. I definitely like taste them. It's like it's a
mm,
tasting almost.
mm, mm.
It's a sampling.
There we go. So the purpose of this week's podcast has been to give people a spiritual ability for wine tasting.
Go practice your
Yeah, go
empathy with
practice.
wine. Practice pulling down the right words to describe what you're
That's
tasting and smelling. See, I knew spirituality and wine had things
so,
in common.
yeah, and humor too. But that's it. If we sampled life in that context, if we follow the parcels of energy, and it's the same analogy as which door do you open that feels the best. You know, do I take my business in this direction or that direction? I don't know, there's an infinite number of examples, but it's the same, isn't it? You know,
It is.
if it feels joyful and exciting and unknown, well, then that's probably the direction to go in.
Yeah. Joyful, exciting, and you don't know what's going to happen. And that's where, like, you just got to trust it. It's like on Christmas
Mm.
morning, this one year, I just, everybody has to do it once, I think. But I went down to the Christmas tree in the middle of the night after Santa had come, my parents had put the presents out, and I walked down and I was like, oh, I wonder if I got the thing I wanted. And I opened every present and then taped it back together. And so I would know all the things. And then I knew what I got and I was like, oh yeah, I got what I wanted. And I went upstairs and I went to bed. And in the morning, I was not excited to go down there because I already
Yeah.
knew what I got. And now I had to fake surprise at getting what I wanted.
And how did you go?
I did it, but my parents figured it out. They were like, because I'm so transparent. Like I can never, I'm a really crappy liar. Like I
Me
cannot lie.
too.
Everyone knows when I'm lying. So like my parents were like, "What'd you do?" And I was like, "Well, I was so excited I couldn't wait." And so I think that's been a big message for me in my life. It's like, don't, it's like, okay, go into the void. You don't want to know what's under the Christmas tree yet. Like, you want to just let it happen. Because I didn't know, there's moments I've had where I didn't know that was going to happen, like the hummingbird thing you mentioned. And then, like, suddenly it happens. It's like, whoa, that was so unexpected. That was exciting. You
Mhm.
want to feel that. And you can't feel that genuinely if you already know what's going to happen.
Mm, absolutely.
It's part
Yeah.
of the big mystery. That's like wandering around in your horse every day. I'm sure new things happened every single day. It's not like you wouldn't just go off and do that if it was the same every single day. Like something new happened for you every single day wandering off on your horse.
Yeah. Yeah, yep, definitely.
That's
And I think
beautiful.
it it still happens even in a adult life. You know, I think the words faith and trust are really necessary in our language, and really at the beginning of the spiritual journey, they're much harder to foster than um, than they are for me now. But I think, you know, for the benefit of the listeners, we could talk a little bit about how we did foster our faith and trust at the beginning, um, because that's one of the hardest parts, I think. You know, there are a myriad of ways, and there's lots of people who can help us open ourselves up to source and remind us that we're connected. But we have to develop that faith and trust on our own. No one can do it for us. And to me, the beginning ways were just noticing the synchronicities and noticing them and being able to say thank you for them. And then that brought more. But I think that's a really simple practice that anyone can do. I mean, I still do it now because it's so much fun. But at the beginning, like I'm trying to remember back to the beginning, and for the people that I've helped at the beginning, the faith and the trust is hard, but noticing the synchronicities, just the simple, you know, the synchronicities come where we have no resistance at the beginning, the car park that we need, or they're the things unexpected. They're the things we're not asking for. They're the things that we would make our life easier, in a way we haven't asked for. You know, they're not the big things at the beginning, they're the little things, and so that's why they go unnoticed. You know, it might be I don't know, a quick trip in and out of the supermarket, or we've got a full trolley load and suddenly there's a spare checkout line just waiting for us at the right moment at the right time. You know, they're the things we forget to say thank you for, especially at the beginning of the journey. But if we can remember at the beginning of the journey to say thank you for those things, then they build into bigger and bigger things. And then it's the meeting the right person at the right time for a connection, or the right house at the right place in the right location with the right aspect, or, you know, bigger stuff than a checkout line at the supermarket. But I just wanted to throw that in for someone who might be listening, who might be at the beginning of their journey and looking for something that they could do that would keep them going on the spiritual journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had many, 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 many moments of that. As you were talking, I remembered one time my grandma had just died, and I was feeling sad about her, and I was thinking about her, and I stepped out of the car. I was at the post office. I stepped out of the car, looked on the ground, and there was this little red heart that said love you, like a little fabric pillow. It must have come off of some child's toy or something, and it just happened to land there. And I just happened to see it as I opened my door, and there it was. And I was like, that's for my grandmother. And so I picked it up, and I was like, thank you, Grandma. And I still have that little pillow, that little red
Mm,
pillow today, you know, because it meant a lot to me.
mm,
So,
yep.
you know, some people would say, oh, well, you just saw that and you just thought that was your grandmother. But to me, I pay attention to the synchronicity. I was thinking about my grandmother. I saw the pillow and my brain went, I felt my grandmother. That's for you. And I was like, oh, that's for me. It was
Mm,
left there for me. So that's the way I take it. I just trust that that's true for me in that moment. That's for my journey.
mm,
And yeah,
mm.
sure, it probably fell off somebody's child's toy or something like that. But why did it fall off? You know,
Well, that's the mind,
right?
isn't it? We don't need to go up into the mind.
I mean,
But I think the point you made was good. You know if that the way it makes you feel is
yeah.
confirmation that it's a proper synchronicity. Yesterday, I had a really similar one. I was thinking about someone that I've helped, and just how incredibly magnificent the changes are that are going on in this person's life, and how this person could never have imagined the way it was going to come together. And I was just feeling really, really excited for this person's life, and the things that were going on and the way things were unfolding. And this person's symbol or sign is often a feather. And I walked into my lounger. So this person does not live with me, doesn't live in the same town. We do talk reasonably often. And but this yesterday morning, for some reason, something this person had said the day before, I was still playing in my mind. I was feeling super excited and enthusiastic. And I walked into my lounge room, and there's a feather sitting on the leather lounge. And I was like, I sat there last night, and I'm pretty damn sure that there. Oh my gosh. Then I could feel even more excitement. I took a photo and sent it to them. And then within a couple of hours, that person took a photo and sent it to me of butterflies. And I just love when butterflies come, and they do all sorts of things around me, or they visit me in the garden, or they visit me all sorts of times. And I was like, oh my gosh, what a beautiful way for the cosmos, or the divine or source, to say, we are all one. We'll swap your signs for the day, and we're just going to have some fun with that. And you two are going to feel even more connected and in the flow and in sync and joyous. And, what a cheeky little game to play, but it's going to be fun.
I love that word cheeky. That's super fun. Yeah, I love that. And that's exactly how it shows up for me too. Like that just as, you just kind of know it. You just know that and you have an intuition or a sign about that and then you share it and sure enough the other person feels the resonance of truth in that too. You're both feeling that that's true. So it is.
Mm, mm.
Period.
Yeah.
And you just go with that and then it starts to unfold even more. And so as you accept that, then the next magic happens and the next magic and the next magic. So yeah.
Mm,
But you got to make that first. You got to be willing to not be so logical and rational and
mm. Well, I think that's another really interesting point. Your spirit is multidimensional, multifaceted, energy flow. There's no inner box solution here. That's why there's so many different spiritual modalities, so many different spiritual guides. You know, someone who's drawn to your work probably won't be drawn to my work, and vice versa. That is necessary. That is the way it is meant to be. And then there's all different, you know, spirit's not only in the flow, it's at different frequencies, and it's just incredibly multidimensional that I don't think even our earthly experience can have words for it. So there's and I can't even remember now what you said that triggered my rampage on this point, but I just think there aren't any direct exact rules here. We have to go by how we feel. We have to have, like you asked me, you know, what practice do you do when you stray off course? And so there's certain things you can sort of do, but they'll be different every time. And every time spirit comes to us, and it's going to be slightly different. And I don't know, sorry, I've gone off on this little rampage, but spirit is multidimensional and unexpected, but always joyful, loving, and supportive.
I love that. Yes, indeed. So how do people get started with you if they want to dive into your thoughts? I mean, I think you blog and you write, right? And then you also do podcasting. So tell us a little bit more, like tell the listeners about what you offer in terms of messages and platforms and teachings and services and whatever you want to share.
Thank you, Carrie. Well, my website is Live True to You, because I think that would be magnificent if we all lived true to who we really are. Well, what a place the world would be. So livetruetoyou.com, and I'm still developing my online presence, I guess. So I just want to say, if anyone goes there in the near future, I'm not sure when you're planning on publishing our interview, but maybe it'll look better then than it does now. But I do write blogs on that website, and it does host all the links through to my podcast, which is called the More Love Podcast, because I think that's something we all want, more love. And again, wouldn't the world be a magnificent place if we all knew that? And in terms of working with me at the moment, it's all sort of like over the phone or one-on-one. But I am working towards recording it so that lots of people could be helped in, you know, to keep that momentum going. I feel real urgency about that, as I said earlier, at the moment. So, but anyway, if anyone is listening and would like to sort of read a bit more or connect with me, livetruetoyou.com is the easiest way.
Beautiful. Well, I'll include those links in the show notes. And so people can find you really easily and listen to your podcast and check out your blogs and your thoughts and connect with you from your website. And so I always like to give kisses on the way out, but before I do that, so just to prepare you, we're gonna get kisses. Before I do that, I want to encourage everybody, you know, if you really found some nugget of useful gold in this conversation and you enjoyed what you learned here today, then share it out. You know, you can always share it with somebody, and they
Yeah.
may not watch it, but you know, you don't have to force anybody. You know, don't do the Clockwork Orange thing and like make them watch it because that's just obnoxious. But like, you know, you can share it with people and just in the spirit of, I see you as a sovereign being of choice. You know, I see you as a sovereign being of choice, and we are all part of the oneness. We're all here together, and just in that spirit of sharing, you can share it out. And if it makes an impact in somebody's life, then doesn't that feel good that you were part of the synchronicity for their journey? That's just like so
Yes.
awesome. So like just share it and just let go of like the outcome, but share it. And give us a like, or you know, some stars and stuff like that too. 5 if you can. If you could do 5, that'd be great. You know,
More love, more love.
give us the most love possible currently on the platforms. We appreciate that. And so right now we're just going to give you some kisses to say thank you in advance because we are thankful for you. We're thankful for you listening all the way to the very end. Thank you so much for being here with us. We hope that this touched your heart and brought you some really powerful, potent messages and energies for today. And we love
Hmm.
you. And so here comes some kisses. You want to join me for some kisses? We're going to give them
Yeah.
out. Okay, here
I
they come.
always imagine that you're blowing them out.
Love you all. We'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show. Bye for now.
Bye.